A massive and very worrying story has emerged from Hyderabad. Remember how the critics of the Aadhar system and the petitioners in court against Aadhar argued three main things. They argued that the security of the database was weak and hence our data was at risk. They argued that if the data fell into wrong hands, it could be used to profile us as voters and influence elections. And they also argued that if the data fell into the wrong hands outside of our borders, it would pose a serious threat to national security. All of these things were refuted by the Government of India and the UIDAI, who claimed that there was no such risk. This latest case that's come out of Hyderabad now proves all of these arguments to be true. Now, you'll remember, viewers, every time there was a concern about the database base being breached, the UIDAI would come out vehemently and deny any such leak. This case is different, because the complaint has come from UIDAI itself, who's filed a complaint with the Hyderabad police, and the details of that FIR are simply shocking. The FIR states that the UIDAI searched the offices of a company called IT Grids, a company hired by the Telugu Desam party, Chandrababu Naidu's party, for developing an app called the Seva Mitra app. The company was allegedly found to have the data of 7.82 crore citizens from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The Telangana State Forensic Science Laboratory has confirmed that that data in fact came from the Aadhar database, because the structure of the data and the size of the data was similar to that owned by the UIDAI. Now, the data apparently includes something, along with the name and the address and the Aadhar number, it includes something called a CIDR number. That indicates that the information came directly from the Aadhar database and not from any other database. The scary part of what the UIDAI thinks the data might have been used for. In its FIR, it says that the Seva Mitra app was using the stolen Aadhar data to profile voters. And remember, Telangana only voted last week. To profile voters, to target campaign, and to delete names of voters from the list. Worse still, the authority says that IT Grids had taken the data of citizens of other states as well, and it had stored the stolen data on cloud services of Amazon Web Services. The complaint says, and I quote, "There is a very high possibility that the sensitive data of Indian citizens could be accessed and used by countries hostile to India or international organized crime syndicates in a manner that could be seriously detrimental to national security," end quote. What this case effectively proves is that the security of the database, as we've been saying for the last year and a half, is weak and our data is at risk. That the data has fallen into wrong hands and it has been used to profile us as voters and delete some of our names from the list. There is now a possibility that the data could be in the hands of hostile entities and pose a serious threat to national security. How will the government deny it this time? How will the UIDAI tell us that there is no risk this time? And if there's such hard proof that the Aadhar database is not foolproof, that it will leak, and when it leaks, it can cause all kinds of risk to the country, why is the government continuing to push citizens to enroll with Aadhar? Why are you still in denial? These are the questions we're asking this evening. On the show with me, Srinivasan Kurla is an independent researcher who has been working on this story for a while. Vineet Goenka for the BJP. Dinakar Lanka is the spokesperson of the TDP. Ritesh Bhatia, cybersecurity expert. Pawan Duggal, cyber law expert. I thank all of you for joining us on the show. Srinivas, my first question to you. Obviously, there have been allegations since voting last week that there have been massive voter deletions happening in Andhra Pradesh and in Telangana. Is there enough proof now to suggest that this was done using the Aadhar database?
Well, Faye, that's up to the investigation agencies to check. We don't know whether it was definitely done using Aadhar, but the fact remains there were large-scale deletions of voters, and the Election Commission in Andhra Pradesh has filed 50 FIRs against elements who have filed bulk Form 7s for deletions of voters whom they thought to be duplicate voters, or could be that they thought they're not going to vote for their party. What has transpired is not entirely clear, But it's a fact that Aadhaar is involved in this process, data is involved in this process, because EC itself has linked voter ID with Aadhaar data in 2015.
Absolutely. Mr. Vinit Goenka, here's my question to you. Both the UIDAI and the Government of India has constantly denied that the database was at risk and constantly denied that it can be used against us. We've seen both of those take place now in this particular case. Can we now accept that the Aadhaar database is not safe?
Did UIDI or Government of India or any investigation till now say that there is a leak in database? It's a case of theft. Why are we jumping on conclusions?
What is the difference between leak and theft?
Did anybody prove there is a leakage? You can simply Google it, or you can see the dictionary for that, ma'am. I'm not here to do the differentiation here. It's not a leak.
Okay, it's not a leak. Okay, let me read out from this FIR from the Hyderabad police. The FIR has been filed by the UIDAI. I think everyone's already read it, but I will read it one more time for your benefit. It says this: illegal access. Now, I don't know whether we want to call illegal access leaks or illegal access theft. The point is that the database is currently in the hands of someone other than the UIDAI. Illegal access and fraudulent use of sensitive identity information such as Aadhaar voter ID details using color photographs and beneficiary details from various government schemes. This has been used for voter profiling, targeted campaigning, and even deletion of votes. Okay, so it also goes on to, and it says basically that the structure and the size of the database is surprisingly similar to the database that could have originally been owned by the UIDAI. It goes on to say that there's something called as a Central Identities Data Repository Number or State Resident Data Hubs aligned to the C1DR. The availability of this unique information indicates that the accessed case might have been illegally accessed from the Aadhaar database. So, Vinit Goenka, could you explain to me again what you mean when you say this is not a leak, this is theft? Only if the database is weak will someone be able to steal.
So let me give you. So when there is a theft which happens in a bank or a loot which happens in a bank, it does not mean the notes are fraudulent or the RBI has gone to a fraud. Same with the data has been available with somebody, a third party, which misused the data. It was a data theft, not a leak of the database. The architecture, the security of the database is intact. Okay, so that's why I think proactively UIDAI filed a FIR, and it is not filed for the first time. There are 30 cases which have been filed till now since Aadhaar database, Aadhaar Act has come in 2016. Whenever UIDAI feels that somebody has breached the contract, somebody has leaked the data which was available to him, which breached the contract. Hear me out. Don't hear what you want to hear. Breach the contract. So if you are working here and you breach the contract of Mirror Now, it does not mean Mirror Now is wrong. So if somebody has breached the contract, somebody has deliberately sold the data, accessed the data. So those kind of things where the database has nothing to do with it, the architecture has nothing to do with it. UIDAI's things are foolproof. There UIDAI takes cognizance of that, and sections, various sections and provisions of that allows it to file a case. And I think here the agency has done a very nice work of identifying that proactively. They have identified that forensics have been done, and here they have gone behind the people who are perpetuating this. Let me complete, ma'am.
Okay, no, I want to bring in the other panelists at this point, and I also want to open up the phone line for viewers from Hyderabad, from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. If you feel you have been left out of the voter list at this point, remember the UIDAI says that your Aadhaar number has been used to profile you and leave you out of the list. Pick up the phone and call us and tell us if you feel this is proactive and good and the government is on top of it and it's foolproof and there's nothing absolutely wrong, everything is intact. Mr. Pawan Dugal, could you legally explain to us the difference between leak and theft? And to respond to what Mr. Vinit Goenka said, if there is a robbery in the bank, it doesn't mean the notes are not correct. It means the bank is weak. And the bank doesn't have the right security to keep the money safe. And the bank needs to introspect and fix its problems. Here you have a bank that has regular robberies but refuses to accept that it has a problem. Mr. Dugal, do you see this as a serious, serious issue?
I think this is a massively serious issue. In this case, the bank is the UIDAI. The bank has been breached. So the law talks about unauthorized access. The moment there's unauthorized access, seen from another side of the coin, it's nothing but leak of the information from the system. Because had the unauthorized access not taken place, the leak would not have been possible. Now, the FIR has been registered by nobody else than the UIDAI, which is authorized to register the FIR. 50 FIRs were registered last year for breaches of various cybersecurity measures of the Aadhaar. So I think when I travel extensively outside, people ask me the question, look, you had one of the biggest data breaches in the world in terms of your Aadhaar. What did you do? It's very hard to try to convince those people that India has actually done something. The fact of the matter is that just because inside the country we are not talking, we are saying everything is hunky-dory, and we are the most secure systems that human mankind has ever created, then I think that kind of a messaging can keep on going. But that's not going to prevent unauthorized breaches or constant endeavors to show the fallibility of the system. I think the bottom line is, when there has been a breach, this breach has been possible because the security shutters were low, or they were weak, or they were capable of being intruded into. So they got intruded into. Once a person came inside, it's of no consequence whether he came inside or through what route he came inside. The fact of the matter is that he had or she had access to data. That data was no normal data. It's critical, sensitive personal data of individuals. And once that's done, people and their life and their identities are impacted for life. Merely saying everything is hunky-dory, we are fine, there's nothing doing, can be good. Let's have this experiment replicated on each one to then understand the pain of the people, because once your digital biometric identity gets compromised online or is available for sale on the dark net, then the problem is that your digital identity is compromised and permanently scarred for life. And you,
Absolutely.
as an individual, will always be beginning as a handicap.
Absolutely. And I just want to point out, to me personally, the most worrying part of this FIR and the letter that has been written by the Government of India, this is the Government of India, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, UIDAI, has written a letter, and on page 3 of this letter, and I quote, Mr. Goenka, you are smiling. I would suggest you take this more seriously, given that your party's main election plank is national security and nationalism. You should listen to this. It says, and I quote, there is every possibility that sensitive data of Indian citizens could be accessed and used by countries hostile to India or international organized crime syndicates in a manner that could seriously be detrimental to our national security, end quote. This is signed by T.V. Bhavani Prasad, who is the Deputy Director of the UIDAI in Telangana. So we should take this far more seriously than you're taking it. Let me go across to Ritesh Bhatia, who is a cybersecurity expert. Ritesh Bhatia, this is something...
Who said I'm not taking it seriously? Why do you jump to conclusion?
Okay. Ritesh Bhatia, obviously this is something we've been talking about on the channel now for a year and a half, almost 2 years, that when there is a leak, if there is a leak, it could pose serious risks. It can be used to profile voters, it can be used to delete their names from the lists. This is a serious, electoral crime.
Absolutely, Faye. I still remember when the first time I came onto your channel and we were discussing Aadhaar, and your question was what can really go wrong if Aadhaar is leaked or breached or things like that. And I said, I clearly remember saying profiling. And that's exactly what is happening. They using this particular app, they have profiled. I mean, Srinivas has shared the screenshots of the apps. They are there in the public domain to see. And I was shocked to see how the cadre of TDP would go down to the booth level, ask each and every person what is your inclination towards which party is your inclination, and then they would just kind of segregate them into different silos, that this guy likes this particular people like that. They've gone ahead and they have even profiled based on their geography, GPS location, and many more things. So yes, this is I think this is one of the biggest example that we are saying that what can go wrong with the Aadhaar, or when you try to, or with this entire ecosystem also, when you try to link everything with Aadhaar. The first column of their app clearly indicated that
this is the particular person and this is his Aadhaar number. Now we have to, tell ourselves again and again that the Aadhaar number is a unique number. No one can escape. So I can say, okay, this is Ritesh Bhatia, and tomorrow you'll say, no, oh, this is different Ritesh Bhatia. But what about the Aadhaar number, which is so unique to it? And that's exactly what has happened over here, Faye.
Well, Srinivas, you've actually put out an entire presentation on this. How has the database been used on the ground in Telangana? How have the political parties managed to single people out and target them?
The entire practices are not yet known, but what is very clear is these weren't just political party practices. These were government practices which were being replicated by political parties. So if you look at it, all of the data collection initially happened by the government for delivering beneficiaries, the government benefits. Now what the political party is doing is they're going back to the beneficiaries and checking if they have benefited from the government so that they can re-elect the government. And they're trying to quantify how many of these voters are trying to re-elect the government or not. And depending upon that, they are micro-targeting voters. And they're trying to see if they can change their opinion or they may be removed from the rolls itself. And this removing from the rolls is a very tricky part because the EC's role on abdicating their responsibility to the government application needs to be further questioned. Because when a similar exercise was being carried in Delhi, where the Delhi government was trying to collect data of voters, EC stopped Delhi government from doing so, saying that this could lead to profiling based on caste, community, and regional profiling. And that's exactly what's happening, and EC is very silent on this. I understand UIDAI has as much responsibility on this, but both the institutions have failed us on this, and political parties are benefiting from this. And we don't know how this is going to change representation, how this is going to help majority communities win elections and minorities are being ignored just because their numbers are not good enough in terms of votes, and profiling minorities and their preferences is completely ignored in the larger scenario.
So basically, Srinivas, what you're saying is that the Aadhaar database was used to profile every single voter in every single village and city, and then to figure out where they are likely to vote, and minorities who are likely to vote against a certain party were just removed from the list. Is that the possibility here?
It's a definite possibility. And also, we don't know who were removed from the rolls, because the Election Commission has no standard practices on publishing list of deleted voters, and it has been a major issue in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. After I have filed a litigation on this, asking them to disclose everything that has taken place in their Aadhaar and voter ID linking exercise. Even in 2019, like just 3 days ago, the complaints of voters being deleted without them knowing how they were deleted. Right? So this all exercise is very secretive, non-transparent, and this is causing misinformation too, because we don't know what the facts are, because these institutions are not telling us what's happening.
Absolutely. I have a question for Mr. Lanka of the DDP. Mr. Lanka, there is the very clear allegations here that your party and your website Seva Mitra application actually misused the data of voters in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and deleted their names off the list. You're considered a very tech-savvy party. Is this what tech-savvy means in Andhra Pradesh? Mr. Lanka.
Yeah, it is. Let you give 5 minutes time, because I have heard patiently all the debaters' views. I respect some of their views. I respect very carefully. And as far as Seva Mitra app is concerned, there has no data breach. Same has acknowledged UIDAI very clearly that, because holding Aadhaar number is not the mean the data is holding, because it is the data which is encrypted in the form of encrypted data which holds by the UIDAI trusted guarantee security. So it is one point. And how the Telangana government and the YSRCP used the data which was stolen from the as far as the data, Telugu Desam Party data is concerned, it was stolen by the Telangana government and hand over to the YSRCP. I would like to explain that there had huge extent of the voters deleted in the list, eligible voters in Telangana. 24 lakh voters has lost their vote. It was acknowledged by the Election Commission. And then after steal this data from Seva Mitra data from the IT grid company by the Telangana government, which was handed over to the YSRCP, same Jagan Mohan Reddy acknowledged that more than 8 lakh forms for deletion has submitted by the YSRCP. Same was caught by the Election Commission.
Okay, hang on. Mr. Lanka, let me ask you shorter questions that will have shorter answers. Has the Telugu Desam Party ever done business with a company called IT Grids India, yes or no?
He is my service provider, my party service provider.
Your party
What is the wrong in it?
No, nothing. I just want to understand the relationship. No. Calm down.
Experts on my own.
Mr. Lanka, don't yell. Don't shout.
Please, 1 minute.
Mr. Lanka, calm down. Mr. Lanka, calm down.
Let you hear first.
Have you? No. Has IT Grids designed the? Mr. Lanka, has IT Grids actually designed the architecture of the Seva Mitra app? Yes or no?
Absolutely. What is the wrong in
They
it?
have.
Whether
Nothing wrong with it.
Miller now is using all technical experts on your own, or are you taking consultant, any consultant?
Okay. Now, next question. How is it that this particular IT Grids company was in the possession of 7.82 crore database of citizens across Andhra Pradesh and Telangana? And apparently, it had to do with your service app.
Yeah, now I give answer to you that there are apps for TRS. Let you see that Telangana mission for TRS. There are app for Prashant Kishore IPAC. There are app for BJP, Panna Pramukh. All these people, they are gathering the data of voters with their whatever the sources they have. As far as TDP is concerned, we have 70 lakh active membership. 70 lakh. That means indirectly 3 crore people or with their family members directly they have involved. As far as Seva Mitras are concerned, more than 60,000 Seva Mitras as a TDP functionary is there. They are working on ground. Okay. They get each and every data by means of operating on behalf of the party, and then come to the reality. Supreme Court judgment regarding to Aadhaar, post Supreme Court judgment, pre-Supreme Court judgment, let you examine the facts. Whatever the benefits which obtained by the any beneficiary from the any state government, the Aadhaar linkage respective state government is getting from the UIDA, same is available in RTS system, CM dashboards.
Yes.
Well, where is the wrong?
Yes, nothing is wrong. Everything is very good. Mr. Lanka, everything is very good. There is, nearly 8 crore voters' details have been accessed by a service provider who is working specifically with your party. That service provider has been found with all of the data that's come directly from the Aadhaar database. What is wrong in that? It's all very good. Let's not worry about it. Srinivas?
This was my question. No. My question is 22 crore people, beneficiaries, Amit Shah ordered for BJP people to get the beneficiaries' data through the BJP functionaries.
So your justification is they're doing it, so we'll also do it.
Any eye on it? No, it is not justification. Every political party, whoever they serve, the people, they get the data. Definitely, what is the wrong in it? If there is any benefit which is not obtained by the
Srinivas, 1 second. Stop shouting. Please stop shouting. My audience deserves better than your shouting. Srinivas, what is your response to Mr. Lanka's arguments at this point? Please go ahead.
So every political party is doing this. I have no doubts about it. And that doesn't mean what TDP has done is right. I'm questioning every political party. I'm questioning the very practice of this Aadhaar usage for voter profiling. It doesn't mean a particular party does something wrong, you copy them and you also harm democracy. You are supposed to stop somebody who's harming democracy. You're supposed to help us empower democracy. But instead, you're using this information to harm it, and that's the larger concern of the people. And I have no justification
My
that
question,
if
Srinivas,
TDP
I
is
have a
using or
question.
BJP is
D'Souza,
using
if
it.
you
It's up to
if
the
you permit, I
institutions
have some
to stand up for it.
D'Souza, I
One
have
second,
some
one
doubts
second.
and some
One
questions
second.
to ask
Allow other
Srinivas
people
ji.
to speak, Mr.
I
Lanka.
have. If you permit.
One second, Mr. Lanka. Allow
No,
other
no,
people to speak.
I have questions. I
Okay,
have
if you're
doubt.
not
Let
going
the
to listen
citizens
to
of
me,
this
I'm
nation
going
should
to,
know
I'm going
the
to kill
facts.
your audio.
I have.
Mr. Lanka? All right, Mr. Lanka is not willing to listen. Pavan Duggal, we've heard the argument that Mr. Lanka was making of the TDP of how basically all political parties are currently putting together data, and he doesn't see anything wrong with that. It only leaves me with the basic idea that we should not be linking our Aadhaar to anything at this point, because anything that Aadhaar touches is now vulnerable if this is how the database is going to be leaked, and this is how political parties seem to think that it's completely okay to do this sort of thing.
Since the last year and a half, ever since your channel started covering this, I've been extensively talking about how the entire ecosystem around Aadhaar is completely unsafe. And if you're going to link up your Aadhaar with anything else, you're completely stripping yourself of any privacy that you may have in this regard. So I think, given the fact that Aadhaar is like a leaking database, which has not even been appropriately designed, keeping in mind cybersecurity, it's always a good idea not to link Aadhaar with anything. It's always a good idea not to be on Aadhaar, because once you are linking things with Aadhaar, then a large number of other stakeholders who are in this ecosystem are not covered either under the law, nor do they have any responsibility or accountability for using the data. Now, if political parties are taking the argument that others are stealing, and I am so stealing, and stealing is the de facto norm, and there's nothing wrong in it, I think this has to be a big wake-up call for the people of India to say, hold on, the political parties to whom you trust, to whom you want to vote to power, to whom you want to give your aspirations, your hopes, are actually only bothered about your data and don't even think the second time before accessing it or using it or getting it any manner whatsoever, with or without your permission. This is despite the fact that as Indians, we have the fundamental right to privacy, where the parties cannot take this for granted and the government can be hauled up in a court of law. But the fact of the matter is, when everybody else is doing, what's the thumb rule? The thumb rule is, do not connect with Aadhaar. Aadhaar is unsafe. The cyber security mechanisms, protections, practices and procedures of Aadhaar are still shrouded in mystery. There is no transparency nor accountability in that regard. So I think you should better well take your fundamental choice. Do you want to be made a guinea pig or not? If you don't want to be made a guinea pig, I think withholding back your information becomes essential, because Aadhaar, in the current scenario, is what it is incapable of protecting the authenticity, veracity, security of your sensitive personal data, and you need to be mindful of that. Whatever limited privacy remains in your life, please fight back and get it back, rather than to let it erode with the passage of time.
Well, I want to bring Vineet Goenka back into the conversation. Mr. Goenka, do you disagree with the UIDAI at this point that there is a risk to national security because the sensitive data of Indian citizens was actually stored on a cloud that is based in the US, and it could be in the hands of hostile countries and international organized crime syndicates at this point?
I'll certainly comment on that particular part. But one thing, if you can, Mr. Srinivas Ungli can, educate me. He said, because of the Aadhaar database, the caste and the religion database was been targeted. Ma'am, what I understand is Aadhaar does not collect your caste or religion. What I
Collects your
understand
name,
is voter
Mr.
card list also
Goenka.
does
Stop
not
asking
collect
redundant
caste and
questions. In India, you can guess
So how do
someone's
you know
caste
out of
by
the
their
name?
name.
How do you ask?
Tell me what my caste is.
No, okay, please educate me what is Sharma, madam. Please educate me what is
Tell me
Pawar,
what my
ma'am.
caste is.
Please
From my
educate
name,
me,
you
please.
can tell
I would
that
like
I
to
am
get
not a
educated
Hindu
from
and
you.
hence
What
I
is
don't have a
Sharma's-
caste.
Faye, Faye, I would
Mr.
like to
Goenka,
answer
one more
that.
thing. Let me complete.
Mr. Goenka, I asked you a question about a serious threat to national security. Is that something you take seriously, yes or no?
Let me call the bluff off. No. You asked me a question.
There's no bluff to be called.
Please tell me what is
Mr.
Chandu
Goenka, there
Balde's
is no
surname?
bluff.
What
The
is Chandu Balde?
UIDAI
What
has
is
filed
Reema
a complaint with the
Bhardwaj's,
police. I'm reading it
surname?
on air.
Madam,
What
I
bluff?
had a
Who's
team
bluff
member
now?
called as Reema Bhardwaj. She was Christian. Chandu Balde, the cricketer, was Christian. How do you understand from the name? I don't understand. Why do you want to pay the attention to this kind of thing? So there is no caste correction, there is no religion correction. I fail to understand. If there is no collection, how do you do it? Number two.
Okay.
If you understand, madam,
Is there a
voters
threat to
list, there
national
is something called as
security, yes or
electoral.
no?
list in the electoral.
Is there a threat
Madam,
to national
you are
security,
trying to
yes or
create
no?
a narrative. I like to call the bluff off.
Of
No, no,
whose?
madam,
The
you cannot
UIDI?
interrupt me.
You want to
See,
call the
you
bluff
are
of the
asking me a question,
UIDI?
allow me to
Of
answer
the
it.
Information and Technology Department of India? Of the Government of
No, no,
India?
you
Whose
want to
bluff
create
are you calling?
Madam, if you don't want to allow me to speak, why do you call us?
You're not answering any of the questions I'm asking you. This is not an election speech, Mr. Goenka. You're
Madam,
here
I'm
to
answering,
answer
I'm calling
questions.
the bluff off. If you have 10 seconds, I'll answer you. No, if you answer, allow me 10%, or otherwise I walk out. I have no problem. You only requested
Don't
me to come.
threaten me. I'm
Allow
not
me 10
afraid of
seconds
you.
to answer, madam.
I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of a threat to national security. Obviously,
Madam,
something you don't care
but you're
about.
telling lie right now. I am trying to expose the lie and not allowing me to expose the lie.
Okay, expose.
Madam, understand. Electoral rolls, please allow me 10 seconds. I'm requesting you 10 seconds,
Okay.
ma'am. Electoral rolls have been published and it's a public property. Electoral rolls have your name, your age, gender and the address. Same is with Aadhaar card, except that Aadhaar card collects your data prints. Now please tell me, electoral rolls are available with every political party. And every political party for ages known would write in front of your name whether you are my voter or not. Where is the leak? Please explain to me where is
Actually,
the caste
Mr. Goenka,
here?
let
Where is the
me
religion
first
here?
of all
And if you
ask
say
your
you can
forgiveness.
understand, please tell me
Mr.
Chandu, where
Goenka,
is religion?
Mr. Goenka, okay, if you would just take a deep breath, and I want to seek your forgiveness because there's
Please,
obviously...
when we jump and
No, one second.
No, ma'am, I'm not educated. You are
Hear me
trying
out,
to
hear me
get
out,
educated and interrupt me, ma'am.
hear me
I
out,
wanted to
hear
do
me
10
out.
seconds,
Mr.
which I made my
Goenka,
point.
Mr. Goenka, I am not a representative of the UIDAI.
By now I've got to finish my
I
point,
am
ma'am.
not with the Aadhaar department. I am not with the government of India. You seem to be asking questions that
Mr.
only they
Only
can
should tell
answer.
us, how did he
Because
get
the
post
bluff,
caste and
Mr.
religion?
Goenka, please show me some respect. The bluff that you are calling is from the FIR filed by the
You are not showing us
UIDAI.
respect
This
by
is
allowing us
not
10
me,
seconds,
this
ma'am.
is the
You
UIDAI.
have called a guest to answer. You have
Mr.
to give the
Goenka.
other guest 10%. 10
Okay,
seconds also,
I will
please.
ask you the question one more time, and I want to
you don't
remind
allow
our
10 seconds,
viewers
how
at this
would
point
you know?
that the first page of the BJP manifesto
I
has
will also
been
like to
about
tell you one
national.
more
He
time.
will
There is
interrupt
no
me
caste
because he
collected,
doesn't
no
want
religion
you to
collected,
hear
so
what I'm
ask
saying.
your-
Cut his mic.
ask your-
Cut his mic. The first page of the BJP manifesto in this election has been about national security and making sure that our borders are safe and our people are safe and national security, and we will manage to we will have a zero tolerance for terror. They've gone about talking about how they spend all their time making sure that we have the political will to protect the country and do what it takes. Today, the UIDAI, which is part of the government of India, has filed a complaint with the police saying the leak of Aadhaar data poses a serious national security risk. When they talk about countries that are hostile to India, which country can you think of on the top of your head that's hostile to India? When they talk about international organized crime syndicates, is that not terrorism? My question repeatedly to Mr. Vinit Goenka has been, and these are questions, these are things being written by the government of India. Is this not a serious risk? And he's refusing to answer that question. I will give him one more chance. Mr. Vinit Goenka, was the government aware of the fact that database was being leaked or it was being stolen from? And do you not agree that this is a serious national security threat?
See, you don't have to be so generous to give me a chance and then cut the mic. Have courage to hear real answer. I asked and exposed your so-called, the expert, where is the caste and religion mentioned in Aadhaar card? You are trying to overpower me, saying that he will cut the mic. Exposing that, you are trying to protect him. There is no data leak. It is a case of pure theft. UID has taken the action, and I think I appreciate that. Supreme Court has already said things have to be done and things not to be done. And I think the entire government and UID is doing it. If your expert feels it is wrong, let me tell him. Already the people in political circles had something called as electoral part. Electoral part consists of your name, age, gender and address. Why would they take help of Aadhaar card? Electoral party, every political party has an EP which can be used for them to map voter. B, please understand, the database has not been hacked or been leaked. It is a party which tried to use it, and there is a forensic, and I think I should give credit to the UID agency.
How did the party get access to it?
Filed an FIR. That you have to ask Telangana government and Andhra Pradesh government.
Okay. So are you telling me that the database is just there and it's built upon the conscience of various political parties not to touch it?
It's equated to breach of database.
Yes, it is correct.
So I just want to point out to you one more piece of information. Just tell everybody to calm down. Everyone calm down. Everybody calm down. This was the government filed the complaint with the police on the 12th of April. This complaint has now been released now on the 15th. The FIR has been registered on the 12th. On the 1st of April, during campaigning, and let me point out, remind you one more time that Vineet Goenka is convinced that the database is safe and there is no breach. On the 1st of April, the Prime Minister, in a speech in Telangana, said this. Can we play that out, please?
मुझे बताया गया है कि टीडीपी ने अब एक नया काम शुरू कर दिया है। ये काम है साइबर क्राइम से जुड़ी हुई बातें हैं। जिस सेवा मित्र ऐप की वो बात करते हैं वो सेवा नहीं कर रहा है और न ही वो किसी का मित्र है। सच्चाई ये है ये लोगों से जुड़े डेटा की चोरी कर रहा है। सोचिए, जो आपसे जुड़ी जानकारियों की, आपसे जुड़े डेटा की चोरी कर सकते हैं, वो पूरे राज्य के संसाधनों का क्या हाल करेंगे। आपके इस चौकीदार की सरकार ने आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भी सीधा प्रहार।
Mr. Goenka, if the Prime Minister knew that the data was being stolen, chori I believe it means stolen, on the 1st of April, why is it that the UIDAI did not file a complaint till the 12th of April? And doesn't this, I mean, chori effectively means that it had to have been stolen from a framework that was fundamentally weak?
You would like to come to that conclusion, but I think a common man with a little bit understanding of Hindi will say that chori means it's a theft. The government of Telangana, the government of Andhra Pradesh, they have an access due to their authority as in sovereign elected state governments. And if they have done a breach of the contract, that has to be dealt separately. How does it mean that there is a breach of the database? You are trying to refer that chori matlab leakage. Please understand that theft has been done by man who was giving an access for one purpose. And leakage and hack means somebody who has not been given an access tries to access your database. So let me first tell you, there is no leakage, there is no breach of database. Yes, the man who had access for his duties to be performed tried to do something else than that, and that is a theft and that is a crime, and which will be dealt by the
How many people have access to the database across the country right
under
now?
several acts. I would not know that, but whoever has it, and if they try to do a breach, if you're a policeman, you try to breach the rules which have been all that people who try to break that breach is dealt with a separate
so you're
law.
comfortable.
And
I'll tell you,
okay. I think
so
various
right
sections
now,
that from 34 to 40 provides for that. Let us not rush to a conclusion that it provides caste, it provides religion. Aadhaar database does not capture caste, religion.
And this,
If you allow time to me, I will prove.
All right, Mr. Dugal, here's my question. If we take what Vineet Goenka has so painfully explained to us, he's effectively saying that this is not a leakage. People who had access to the database decided to take portions of it out and misuse it for their own benefit. Now, let's consider how many state governments we have in the country. Add that with the national government, how many various political parties have access to this database, which means that what he's saying is that there is a possibility at least that every single political party has a copy of this database at this point. They would have given it to the people who are designing their apps, which means, and these people have now saved it on the Amazon cloud, which means that the database is now easily available outside of our country. Now, it might be nomenclature for Vineet Goenka to talk about the fact that this was theft and not leakage, but the truth is, this is our worst and darkest fear, and it has now come true. Mr. Dugal.
What people are not realizing is that you're actually playing with fire. Why? Because this information, when it's out in the cloud is in the US. The US already has a bill which says any information on a server within the US must be deemed to be US property and that US can access it. In any case, there is no denying the fact that the said information would already now be accessed by various state and non-state actors. So what we are failing to understand is we can close our eyes and adopt an ostrich approach, but that does not change the fundamental reality. And the reality is that the sovereignty, security and integrity of India is at stake. is in danger. Why? Because with 7.82 crore people's these biometrics and Aadhaar related information up in the cloud in another country, that component is a proven account of the numbers of information that's out. Now, if that can be misused, mind you, these are the elections going on. A couple of months back, the hacker groups had already threatened that, look, we will hack into Indian elections. We want to influence the Indian elections. And if this kind of information goes in the hands of state or non-state actors, I think India as a nation is thoroughly endangered.
Do you
Our
believe,
national
Pawan
security,
Dugal,
what are we
yes.
talking of our national security?
Yes. Do you believe that we have a national security risk, Pawan Dugal?
We have an imminent and a major national security risk at hand. We may want to not acknowledge it, is a different issue. Because this is now the figures of the UIDAI. Till now, different other people were talking about it. Other agencies talked about so many big figures, and everybody was said, look, you're lying. Now UIDAI itself says that there's this kind of unauthorized access is there of 7.82 crores.
Yes.
Let's assume for the sake of argument that this figure is correct. Now, if this figure and the information connected with the people who are in that figures are located on clouds or computer systems or networks located outside India, automatically they have access to by foreign state, non-state actors. That being so, if
how
you
could,
have
Mr.
access
Dugal,
to
if let's
almost
assume,
about 115,
let's assume that a hostile country, let's for argument's sake take Pakistan, or a terror outfit now has access to this data, what can they use it for? How can they use it?
they can use it to actually weaken our nation. They can use it for the purposes of trying to do identity theft, then using the same on the internet for a variety of other transactions, selling it, distributing it, disseminating it on the dark net, ultimately aiming to completely, shall I say, shatter the Indian sovereignty, security and integrity. We are talking about India being an IT superpower. What superpower are we talking with? If 1/15th to 1/20th of the total Aadhaar subscribers data is with a foreign state or non-state player. Now, clearly, if you have that information, you can use that as a massive ammunition to target India and you to do a variety of other things. Because please understand, a large number of systems and projects have already still been connected with Aadhaar, despite the Supreme Court having said that linking was not mandatory. Now, since you already have a number of these linkages in place and a number of these belong to rural areas, semi-rural areas or semi-urban areas, the fact is that using that particular route, access can be had to various other e-governmental systems. That being so, the entire architecture of the nation could potentially be stripped of any potential protection, and not just Indian e-commerce, but also Indian electronic governance applications would be at risk. Indian critical information infrastructure will be under massive risk. We can continue to keep on shouting from the top of our roofs to say that we are secure,
are you concerned
but
about
we are
any of
definitely not
this?
secure.
Are you concerned about any of this? Do any of these national security concerns bother you? And this is national security, mind you, that the government of India via the UIDAI has listed in an FIR. Is this of concern right now?
National security is a concern to any sensible citizen for any reason. If any act has been done and that act leads to threatening to the security of the country, I think we all should be concerned. It involves anything, including Aadhaar database. But let me tell you one thing. I don't know whether you have ever received a voter slip. But voter slips have been coming to voters' house much before the election day. And that slips are been given by political parties, which has your name, your age, your address and the booth where you have to go and vote. And that has been dropped to by a karyakarta in your house. At least I am in getting it since I am become a voter. So I am assuming you would be also getting it. How do they get it? They were getting it in 90s. They were getting it in 80s. The reason was Election Commission of India publishes something called as electoral roll, which has all this data and which is available with the political parties, and not only with the political party. If you pay, you also get an access. And that's why the slip has been made. So do you say that is a leakage of the data? And the political parties, when they have these slips, they have a liberty to mark whether he is my voter or he is not my voter. They don't generalize it on the basis of caste, creed or religion. They do it on the basis of the information available by the Panna Pramukh. There is a man who is called as Panna Pramukh, who is the last man in the hierarchy of a political system. So understand this particular fact before we jump to a conclusion the database has been taken by this party. In fact, I would love to blame everything on TDP, but I would not do that because that will be called as
you really should take this
irrational.
up with the UIDI. I'm going to read from the complaint again. It basically says they've taken a copy of the data.
I have read the complaint, madam. Before I come
forensics
to your show,
has compared that data to what is available in the
people.
Aadhaar. I would like to speak, please. It is my show. The complainant has verified by the forensics labs the records of the 5 members, and apparently it is my show. I would like my audience to hear what I'm reading. Apparently, the hard disks had data in the following fields, along with the name and all of the other details: citizen name, father name, date of birth, village name, mandal name, district name, pin code, phone number, gender, state code, name, citizen name local, care of name local. It also had 2 pieces of information, which was called a UID underscore number and a EID underscore number. Now, and I'm reading again from the complaint. The presence of the EID number raises strong suspicion that the data could have been obtained either from the Central Identities Data Repository or the state resident data hubs aligned with the CIDR. Availability of such unique information of an Aadhaar number indicates that the accused in the case might have illegally accessed the CIDR or the SRDH, as this information is only available in the Aadhaar database. It proves that if Mr. Vineet Goenka wants to prove to us that all political parties have access, they've all been doing this for a very long time, it then is in contradiction to what the government themselves have filed in a complaint. Ritesh Bhatia, go ahead.
Faye, you know what Vinny ji is saying is about that the election people have been sending us our information and all, but nowhere it has happened that with our information, you know, which has been linked to, as you were rightly mentioning, the UID number and the EID number, from where did that come? Earlier, they never had this kind of information that, you know, the paper that is coming to home, the slips that are coming to home, you don't have your Aadhaar number or anything, you know, printed on that. But over here, the fact is that a SRDH, which is the State Resident Data Hub. Now, when Vinny ji is saying how did they get the religion and all, Aadhaar doesn't take it. So, you know, let me tell you how it happens. There is something called as Know Your Resident and there is something called as Know Your Resident Plus. Now both these things have been created by UIDI. So when you go to the enrollment, you go for an Aadhaar enrollment, what you're actually doing is a certain amount of information is going into the central depository, which is the CIDR, but the other information is going to the state repository over there, and that is where, and both these things definitely come under UIDI, and it is their responsibility not only just to take care of CIDR but also of the SRDH. Here it's very, very clear that the SR...
Question before we run out of time. I have one more question, and to anyone who can answer this question for me in the panel. It basically says very clearly, by the government of India. I'm not making this up. The UIDI has filed this where they've said that the information was used to delete voters' names off the list. Now, I don't understand this. Names can be deleted from the list only by the Election Commission. One second, Mr. Lankar.
It happened in Telangana.
It's amazing that politicians won't even wait for the question to be asked. One second.
No, D'Souza, you.
Okay. Names can only be added or deleted by the Election Commission. Nobody else should have the ability to add or delete a name. So how is it possible that political parties who have access to any database, whether they're using the Aadhaar database or not, have the ability to delete a name from the list? A name that perhaps doesn't suit them. Is this the new norm? How is this happening? How is it that the electoral list is available for editing by political parties? Pawan Dugal, is there any sort of explanation for how something that only the Election Commission should have access to is being modified by political parties?
Clearly, the political parties have understood that the Election Commission has not done its homework on cyber security. It's completely at bay to find out how its systems are going to be appropriately protected. So no wonder when electoral rolls tend to get connected with Aadhaar, and you have the Aadhaar, which is an unsafe passageway. Any hacker can use the unsafe passageways to go in, have access to the master database, delete, destroy, alter, modify any information at will, and come out without any fear of any kind of potential action or retribution. So I think this is a big lesson for the nation as a whole. We've been talking for so long about trying to protect Indian cyber security, and that message doesn't seem to go across to the right stakeholders. We need to wake up. This is the hour of reckoning. Let the world not call India in a bad light just because we failed the test of history. We failed to give adequate attention to cybersecurity as statutory organizations, as political parties, and as a nation as a whole. Collective failure, that's what this currently demonstrates. But I think whenever we wake up, that's a new morning. Let's wake up today, try to strengthen as far as possible, because at the end of the day, having a secure, strong democracy of India is paramount as we go forward.
All right, we've run out of time on this conversation. I just want to point out to my audience one thing. This is perhaps the scariest Aadhaar story we have done until now, because of the various things that the government of India has filed in its own complaint to the police. And I'll just put it in a quick nutshell. The UIDAI that's responsible, in conclusion, the UIDAI that is responsible for the Aadhaar database has basically filed a complaint with the police saying 7.8 crore names and database has been stolen from the Aadhaar database. It has been used by political parties, specifically the TDP, which has been named in this FIR, has been used by political parties to profile voters and to delete their names from the list. This is a threat to national security. It's also a threat to democracy. How is it that political parties have access to the electoral rolls and have the ability to add or to delete a name from the electoral rolls, which should only be available with the Election Commission? Everything about this is wrong. Everything about this is scary. Everything about this is worrying. The Aadhaar system is leaking like a sieve, like a chunni. There's something horribly, horribly wrong. And we've been asking ourselves for the last 2 years why the government was pushing Aadhaar and making it compulsory for everybody. It's simply this, because political parties now have access to databases that allow them to profile us, that allow them to target us, and allow them to delete our names from the list if they feel that we are not going to vote for them. That's what it has come down to. Make sure that your name is on the list. Actually visit the Election Commission office and ask them to go through the list and show them your name on that list. Insist that you have that right to vote. The only people who can now insist is us as citizens. Thanks for watching.